There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. She's currently performing in the incredible musical Six here on Broadway as Jane Seymour, but before the pandemic, she was on the U.S. National Tour number 6 of Cats, performing as Grizabella. So welcome, Keri René Fuller, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I am excited because I've when Six originally came out, I had a lot of people reach out and tell me Six is what I wanted Cats to be because I wanted a singing competition for Cats, and Six starts as a singing competition. So I've noticed there's some parallels that we'll get to, but let's talk about the Cats part first. So before you went on tour, I always love to know, how much did you know about the show?
Well, I did have the VHS when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I remember being like, oh yeah, if I was, because I didn't start theater until I was, like, you know how some people start wee last.
Right away, yep.
I started like towards the end of middle school. So I was like, I was still a kid, but it was later than a lot of kids. And so I was like, I played basketball, I played soccer, I thought I was going to be a crime scene investigator at some point. But somehow, I got the VHS of Cats. I really do. It was definitely before I was in theater. So I don't know how it ended up in my house. However, I watched it and I was like, yeah, I mean, if I did this show one day, I'd probably be the one that dies at the end. Like, I don't know, it seems like what, because I've been singing forever. I hadn't done any dancing. I was like, that's really the only one I could do.
Yeah.
But I didn't follow the story. Like, I definitely didn't understand the story.
Oh, no. Well, I guess how old were you when you first saw it? So you said middle school?
No, it was probably elementary school. I think that we probably got it at a garage sale.
Okay. I kind of love the fascination of people who just end up with this VHS, because I definitely did not have it growing up. I know my mom took my sister as a young child, but I didn't go. And so I knew nothing about the show until 2016, really, besides that it was a punchline in a lot of like TV shows and sitcoms.
Oh, yeah. I remember, I think it was one of my favorite jokes of all time. I heard it was Conan O'Brien. Remember that guy? He said, in other news, oh gosh, I'm going to slaughter it. But he was like, if there is now, like, if you're in China, make sure that you catch the tour of Cats. And then he said, in other news, the entire cast of Cats has been eaten.
Oh, God. Yes.
Clearly butchered the delivery, but I'm sure there's a video of that somewhere on the interwebs. But I truly didn't know anything about the story until I joined the show. I kid you not.
Well, it's probably a good thing though, because it's kind of a dark story when you like really dig into it. So it's like not the best plot line for under middle school aged person to be watching. I've complained through this whole podcast, I don't think kids should be there, because really? I know it goes over their head, but as I've learned more of the plot line, it's like, well, it feels like a cult, we're going to murder a cat. One is being sexually abused, that's like a staple of the history for Demeter. 100%. And it's like all these things are happening, and it's like, and it's pretty sexual, like the balls and orgy. And so I think there's a windows. I think if you're under like 10, it's all going over your head. Bring them, it's fine. Right. But it's at like 10 to probably like 15 range where it's like, they probably understand a little of what's going on, and it's probably a little inappropriate. And then there's the adults where it's like, come figure out how you feel about it, love or hate, and there's definitely a big mix.
100%. I think that people just assume that since it's called Cats, that it's really not that deep, and that it's just dancing. So any kid that's ever had the dream of dancing, parents are like, this is the perfect show for you. I don't know.
Until they learn what it's about.
Gray areas. Gray areas.
Definitely. Okay, so you don't know a ton about it until you get cast on tour, and this is after Waitress, when you were on Broadway and Waitress. What was that experience like being cast in this, this tour revival, coming off of, I think it's the 2016 kind of production being brought on tour?
Yeah.
What are you told about, like what were your aha moments when you're learning the craziness and backstories of all of Cats when you're now seeing it from a different lens?
I mean, it was kind of, I'm going to be honest, it was kind of a confused production, our tour in particular, because Andy Blankenbuehler was our director and choreographer. However, he was working on the film at the time. And so we didn't really get to work with him that often. And so we were working with Jillian Lynn's assistant of Chrissy Cartwright. She's worked on, I adore the woman. I think that she is so funny. Obviously British, has worked with like every production, so she knows the show unlike anything else. I was very much looking forward to the fusion of traditional and new. But I didn't really, I was called to every rehearsal, but I didn't really, I had 2 sessions I think with Chrissy. I never really got to work with Andy. And because when he was there, he was working mostly on the choreography, of course.
Yeah.
And since, Grizabella only has like 20 minutes on stage, she has the most famous song, but she took a back seat a little. And so a lot of what I did was based on conversations that like little passing conversations I had with Chrissy. But Kristen Blodgett and I had probably some of the most effective sessions because she was our music supervisor. And obviously she also knows the show extraordinarily well. So I was getting just like essentially narrative because Grizabella doesn't interact really. And so it was unique in that I was kind of making up my entire thing the entire time. I was flying by the seat of my pants. I was like, okay, well, I know the words. I am not really getting any direction, so I'm just gonna try things and see what happens.
Was there any, with 40 years of history, did you kind of go back to, and knowing this also is a new production, but you had, I think, 2 Grizabellas at least from the 2016. Did you talk to Mamie, or did you explore kind of what historically was done to kind of bring into this kind of new thing?
No, because this is going to sound very bad, but I did not care. I did not care what had been done before because, I was 25 at the time, 24 when I was cast. So like I was young, I was on the younger side. And everybody's talking about how Grizabella is this old weathered thing. And I'm like, she doesn't have to be actually. Yeah. Actually, she doesn't have to be old. She can just, we all know those people that have had great successful careers in theater and then they like break their leg or something and they are, financial advisors in Wisconsin for the rest of their lives. Like, things happen. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, I am 25. I don't have the wisdom of, and there's only so much you can learn about wisdom from other people's wisdom. And so I was like, I need to figure out my own wisdom. There was no other 25-year-old that I could talk to, there was no other like young person that was like, yeah, like this happened, I fucked up here, I fucked up there, and I'm just really trying, I'm back in cattle calls again, and I really don't know if I'm gonna have a career in this anymore, and it's all I want to do. There was nobody like that for me.
So it's so interesting to hear you say it, because when I've asked this question for a few different roles and a few different people, because this show is such a staple for that. There is so much history with the different amounts of productions, and it's on Royal Caribbean Cruise, and it's in Vienna, and it's on international tour and US tour, and it's kind of a 50-50 answer. There's I want to learn everything and then make it my own, or I really don't want to learn anything because I want to make it my own. And it's just a little bit 2 different processes to kind of get to the same spot to individualize a role.
Both of them are so valid. It's like I completely understand the desire to, like, in a historical show, want to know everything about it. I obviously egocentric. I Wikipedia. I was like, who's the youngest Grizabella? Am I making history? I did not make history, but there was one other Grizabella, but that was the extent of like the history that I did. And I also like, I respect Broadway performers, especially that we're doing it at the time when Cats was, you know, originating. I respect them so much because it was such a different time. And I wanted to make sure that this version, because it was so, press always wanted us to say that it was a refreshed outlook on the classic story. And I, you know, to a certain extent, I really wanted to make sure that I was doing honor by that and not allowing too much of the history into the new version. So yeah, I sometimes feel bad that I didn't do more research, but I feel like it was a successful run.
No, I don't think it, I mean, it definitely shouldn't feel bad. I think that's part of the process, is like, you've got to, because you're going to learn in rehearsals, the backstory, which we'll get to next. I have one more question about the tour, though. I'm curious about before we get to the Grizabella theories that are out there that you can shed some light on. You were on tour when the movie came out, right? It was like, that was kind of there. What was that experience like? Because the movie had such mixed reviews, is maybe a generous term, but that's kind of a wild time in itself. And it's also right before the pandemic, where the news was starting to break that things could be maybe not so good, and, you know, but it wasn't quite at that point yet. So what was that end of 2019 like? Honestly,
so we saw it, I remember it very clearly. We saw the movie. We went kind of as a cast, and we were in Toronto at the time, to the local cinema. And it was an amazing night at the theater. We had finished a show. I honestly don't think the problem was with the movie. I think the problem was with the marketing. If they would have marketed that movie as a parody, there would be no backlash. There would have been no because it was a perfect parody. It was perfect. Unfortunately, they marketed it, and I believe intended it to be a serious film, in which case it failed miserably. I also have my own feelings about stunt casting, but just is what it is.
They spent $100 million, so I don't think that was a parody attempt.
No,
but I think you're right. It would have landed better.
It would have landed so much because people would have managed their expectations. Like, it wasn't really, like, I don't know who dropped the ball. I really don't know. I don't know who. But
it's the director. It's the editing. I can tell you, I still think if someone took the whole thing that they shot, because the choreography looked amazing, the singing was great, the dancers are incredible. It was the way, to me, it was cut together, which, you know, there was a lot of news at the time was done, not even done at the time of the premiere. So I still think that there's probably a version, if somebody went out and took all of the raw footage and edited it properly, that there's still maybe a more realistic movie that's out 100%, there, but it's too late.
100%. But you're also taking such a, like you said, a show with so much history, and it just didn't get the time it needed. I think that some of the performers were fantastic. I think others were not. And I don't think it was necessarily, I don't think that the casting was perfect. However, I don't think it was wrong. I do not think the casting was wrong. I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
I did too. I was at a press viewing, and I knew it was problematic when everyone was laughing, and that group of people is either friends, family, or people being invited for press. That's a group that should be professional, and when that group started hysterically laughing at parts that aren't funny, I was like, and it was day 2 of the press viewings. I was like, oh, they're in trouble. I was like, they're definitely in trouble.
If I was at one of those and had to be held together, you would have had to have put me in a muzzle. I was wailing. It was so funny to me.
I love it. I held it together until Judi Dench stared at me straight in the face at the end, and then I lost it there.
She broke that fourth wall.
That fourth wall broke because I was not expecting it. I also forgot, because I've only seen the musical twice on stage, And I forgot that part happens at the end of the show. So, because I'm always like, oh yeah, memory, and then it's over, and it's like, no, there's still this extra part.
Right.
And so I saw memory, and then I was waiting, and all of a sudden Judi Dench is just talking directly to me, and that's where I lost it.
Yeah, and it was like the hot air balloon flows away, and I just...
There were choices. Choices were made.
Choices were made, and we always love when people stand by their choices, you know?
Well, a lot of them have disassociated themselves from the movie. So, like, Andrew Lever stepped away. Most of the, like, stunt casting has said, oh, this was, paycheck. Not, like, a lot of them are not really super into even talking about it anymore.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That is very fair. Because, like, you agree to do the movie, and you have no idea what it's going to be, really.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of those stunt castings were given a nice check to do it, that they probably were like, yeah, sure. It can be a disaster. Whatever. I'll take that.
Cult classic. It'll turn into a cult classic.
I love it. Which is where it's going to go, I still think.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to talk a little bit about Grizabella's backstory and some of the like different rumors that I've heard could be brought in, could not be brought in. So how would you just point blank describe Grizabella's kind of arc? Like, she leaves the tribe, she comes back. Like, what is her, like, what are you told about her history for performing?
Not much, actually. When I tell you that I was very independent in this project, I was very independent in this project. Most of everything that I read the book of poems, of course.
Which Grizabella's not in, which is crazy. Of course,
and I was like,
yeah.
Okay, because obviously Trevor Nunn, that was a addition, of course, but it was nice because I was able to like understand who my tribe was before I left and after I returned. So that was like a good starting point. It was mostly from the lyrics of both, like Remark the Cat, Memory, like all the 3 different versions of Memory.
Yeah.
And also like the because she onlooks for the ball and tries to dance, and it's everybody's response to her, but also this like tenacious spirit that she's like, no, but like this is my heart and soul, is this tribe, and I want whatever. I could never really decide if she made a mistake or if she was just curious. I think that I think everybody understands what it's like to be a part of something and have ambition and be curious as to what the unknown is. I mean, how many stories have been written about that exact idea? And so that's what I decided. I decided kind of very, very close to when we started tech and everything in Rhode Island, in Providence. But I was like, I don't think that she did anything. I think that she had her experiences within the tribe. She had friendships. She had close friendships. She had, I believe, romantic relationships as well, because she's just a functioning member of the tribe. That's what they did. Yeah, she's just a cat. And I think that she just was like, I want more than what I have right now. I don't think that she was particularly like, oh, this is not what, I don't think it was that. I don't think it was a malicious departure. I think it's like, I've learned as much as I can from this. I want to learn more. We're obviously giving very human characteristics to a cat.
No, I mean, that's part of it, I think. It's so interesting because I do think that there's a couple versions of why she leaves that you could interpret, and I think that's definitely one of them, which is, I always said it's the group and the solo artist breaking apart, because it's like they've been in a group ready to go solo and then doesn't work out and comes back type of thing could be the arc of her leaving.
Right.
I also think there's a version where there's one thought is that she gets into crime with McCavity and goes off into basically sex work or something because she gets in a bad place, drug abuse, or so she was almost forced to leave because she made bad decisions, and then comes back. Right. So it's interesting to hear you say that yours is more of like, okay, I need to step away from my family and return when it's time after I've kind of done some of my solo, learn from for myself.
From her experiences, and some of that, it could be a hybrid of both. I've made decisions that I am sure my parents and family would not approve of. And, but obviously, bound by blood, this is very different. But I don't even think that she came back because she feels badly. I think that she's just like, I experienced life and I want to come home to the people I love, because I know that I'm on my way out and I know that I probably won't get chosen to be part of going to the Heaviside. So I want to enjoy my last moments, even if it's from afar. That's where I kind of settled on it. I think it's a stronger choice to surrender and allow the redemption to take place without her asking for it.
It's fascinating to kind of hear that version, because it makes the return a lot happier than I think other versions where it's like, I'm on my deathbed, you have to reaccept me because otherwise my life of crime is going to be so bad. I
don't think that she expected at all to be chosen to go to the Heaviside Layer. I think it is truly shocking. I do not think that she came back for that. I think she came back because she was like, okay, I've done my living and I'm ready to come home. I want to love you guys for the rest of what I have, even if I can't be with you, even if I am, extradited, what is it? Even if I'm outcast from the tribe, I can at least remember. And that's what memory is about. It's like, she has nothing in the present anymore. So it's like, I live with my memory, and part of that is being a part of this family.
This is going to lend well, because when I ask why, this is a big reason why I don't think she should be the Jellicle choice currently, because I think she should be back with her family. She should be accepted and spend time with her family. We'll get to that, because that's my final question always. I want to ask a little bit about, did you think a lot about different character relationships? I know with being on stage 15 to 20 minutes, there's some thoughts that Bomb and Demeter could have been, and Victoria could be your daughters, or that, there's Macavity could be a potential lover, or, what's the relationship with Old Deuteronomy or Skimbleshanks or all these other ones, or Bustifer. Did you think a lot about those when you were playing into this, or was it much more of just like a collective family and I'm returning?
I had heard like, possibly having Macavity as a lover, possibly having kittens about. And I thought very long and hard whether I actually wanted to accept that as part of my story as Grizabella. Not because I wanted to be different or anything, but because I really wanted to make a well-informed decision. I actually don't think that she had any kitten. My Grizabella did not have any children. She definitely had a relationship with Macavity because everyone did. Yeah. Everyone did. Okay. And so I think that was just the what I landed on. I think that because the entire arc to me was about me coming back. It wasn't about, because we don't hear anything about her coming back. We hear everything about what used to be, but we don't hear anything about the present from her, really. Other than the narrative of Remark the cat, like when she enters, which she's just like essentially telling you what you see physically. And they continue on with the story. I'm a big advocate for just letting the text exist and not try and invent too much outside of that. So that's why I decided what I decided. There was nothing ever written about her having kids, so I was like, I'm just going to make that my choice. The Victoria bond, I think, is a super beautiful. It was always so touching, even doing it 8 times a week for a full year. It was always so touching because it takes a lot of courage. I find the most amount of courage that exists in human beings mostly comes from children, because they don't quite understand what to fear yet. And so to Victoria, she's just like, why? She's a nice lady. Yeah. She's a nice lady. She sings pretty. Yeah, she's weathered, she's had some ACL repairs. It just is what it is. And like, I also think that I feel it in myself every now and then when I see some of my favorite performers age. I'm not, really afraid of aging. However, I do watch like some of my favorite performers age, and I sometimes feel a little guilty for remaining young. Like I'm still in my like prime.
Yeah.
As far as listen, as soon as I turned 28, I all of a sudden felt my knees. I had never felt my knees before. But I just kind of understand what it's like to witness the next generation and want everything for them. And on the flip side of that, it's like they're watching us, seeing what came before them, and there has to be respect and love there. And I think that's more the essence of what the Victoria Grizabella moment is, more than like I'm reaching out to my grandmother type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's interesting because there is that version. There is the mom abandoned me and now this is the first time I'm seeing her again version. Yeah. And I love that you're saying that you leave to the text, because that's something that's like in the show is almost created to not, or at least from the fan side, especially for anybody who wants to try to fill in blanks, there isn't a lot in the text. And so that's where all these rumors come from, is there's just such open space to interpret this world that was created.
Yes. And I mean, lest we forget, it like existed as text only before it was a musical, before we added the visual aspect of it. And so that's kind of the, like you said, it's the exploration and kind of, I believe why this show is so timeless is because it allows for so much imagination to exist. And so many, we love a conspiracy theory. We love a theory. We just love them.
Yep, completely. We'll be back after this short break. I want to transition to 6 because I'm obsessed. It is one of my favorite things to go see. And I've loved seeing you perform as Jane Seymour. So I want to ask my first question, because Grizabella or Cats even, to 6 is you go from 15 minutes, 20 minutes on stage to 0 breaks on stage and performing straight for 80 minutes. What was that? I mean, like it's kind of almost, it's uncommon at this point. I feel like 6 is one of the few ones where you go get your drinks of water and stuff, and I think you go off maybe before Anna Cleves. There's like a little small, but it's like 10 seconds, not even. So what was that, prep for that going like, where you've been in these, these shows where you kind of got your time on stage, your time off, to all of a sudden, I'm going to be on for 80 straight minutes.
Right. I mean, it is, this show 6 does require a lot of stamina. I even think back to Cats, and I think about my castmates, and I always felt so guilty. I was like, I get to relax and do things off stage, and they're essentially on stage the entire show. And that's like, what, 2 hour, 2.5 hour?
2.5 hours, yeah.
So I definitely have, I think the difference is that I have perspective now that I didn't have before Cats. So if you would have asked me this question before Cats, I would have been like, oh my gosh, it's just so hard, going on, But now that I have seen castmates truly not stop and doing a lot more physically demanding things, I have it pretty good. That being said, this show is extraordinarily challenging in its own way. So you were right, I only exit the stage 3 times for less than 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's like a quick sip of water and then back at it. However, I always joked, I was like, I only get hired to sing high sad ballads.
Yeah.
Because I was hired for waitress to understudy Jenna. I was hired obviously for Grizabella from Memory, and now Heart of Stone. But that's what's challenging to me. It's the vocal aspect of this show. only because we sing in every number, we dance in every number, and it's not like, Heart of Stone is not an easy song. Luckily, we have such an amazing front of house team that's like our sound mixing and everything that just makes our life so much easier. I'm just now getting to the point where like I'm trusting the microphone, I'm trusting the in-ears. We have in-ear monitors, which I've never worked with before. So it's a very unique experience, and it goes by so much faster than it looks.
It does.
Once you know, get down happens, we're pretty much done with the show. And that's how it feels on stage too. And I think we also just have so much fun that the time passes pretty quickly too.
Yeah, it is such a unique song in the sense too, or maybe as the audience, is that you go from very upbeat, and then it's like, wait, we're gonna slow down and we're gonna get emotional and we're gonna go into this kind of power ballad, and so it's kind of, and then it goes right back to very, very upbeat again with the House of Horvine and stuff like that. So it is interesting. My favorite thing to do is with one of their current shows going on is to compare the characters to cats. So I want to compare the queens to cats. Great. So I've done a little bit of thinking on this. I think I've landed on almost all of them. With one that I have a couple choices here, but I want to hear your thoughts on them. So we'll go in order. So let's start with Catherine of Aragon.
I think Catherine of Aragon is
this is the hardest one for me.
This is so hard. Catherine of Aragon, I think, is the what is her name? Oh my gosh, it's weird. But I think it's Jenny Anydots.
Jenny, okay, so why?
Because she's one of the OGs. So was Jenny Anydots. She's one of the OGs. Catherine of Aragon was obviously the OG. And stylistically, they're very presentational.
Okay.
In their performing style. And there's a nice confidence that comes with knowing that like you are setting the bar.
Yeah.
She's also isn't she one of the first cats?
Very much, well? Yeah. She's like second one, first or second. So I like that. I never placed Jenny anywhere, and I thought about like where she would fit. I took the lyrics of this a little bit more to heart. And so I thought Old Deuteronomy, because it's like, you're not replacing me. And it's like Monkish Trap is ready to take over, and he's the true OG of cats. And so I kept thinking, I love that actually. This is my answer. I think that you're right. I think you're right. Okay, let's go to Anne Boleyn.
Anne Boleyn, I think, is Monkey Strap and Rumple Teaser.
Okay, I could see that. I went with Bomb Ballerina. I see I
just think that Anne Boleyn is just such a shit stirrer.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like, and so are they.
Yes. So Mungo and Rump. I
said Monkey Strap? Help.
I think you said Monkey Strap.
Mungo Teaser. Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, what is it?
Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser.
Did I do this show? Did I even do this musical? Oh my gosh. Which one is Monkey Strap?
Monkey Trap is the one that wants to take over for Old Deuteronomy, the narrator.
Yes, thank you. Wow, it's been a minute.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I didn't think about it from that way. I was thinking more about it like very promiscuous and kind of like carefree, and that's why I thought Bomb Ballerina.
No, I do love that. I do love that. I just think
like the idea. Stirs the pot.
Yeah, they're just like little troublemakers, and it's just like it's cute.
I think Jane Seymour is an easy one.
I think, I think that those are pretty.
Yeah, dies. It's Grizabella, it's obvious.
It's true. I mean, I also would say, like, maybe Jelly Lorem could fit in there because she's such a caretaker.
Yes. And I have Jelly for Jane. Jelly for a different queen.
I can't wait to hear this one.
Let's do Anne of Cleves.
Okay. Anne of Cleves is such a show off, so I think that it's Miss Stowe.
That's okay. So interesting. I took the Life of Luxury and Rich, and so I thought she was Bustopher Jones. Like,
I think
lives
that I
in a
block out
palace.
Bustopher Jones just in general.
Most people do.
I think I just block him out.
Bustopher Jones is cut in the 90-minute version on the Royal Caribbean cruise. So, so yeah. But that was where I really like that. Kind of a showy, dancing, heavy number.
Right, knows
awesome.
they're really, really good.
Catherine Howard.
Oh, that's Rum Tum Tugger for sure.
Tugger. Okay, I went to meet her, and I went to meet her because I thought Demeter sings kind of that same very sexy song, but is also a little skittish in it. And as the song progresses, that's what happens to kind of Catherine Howard. So that's kind of how I was thinking about it. But I do get the Tugger like confidence.
It is also like, but I will say like, they're both in abusive scenarios. What the part that gets me is like the confidence in this. I feel like this would be Tugger's like internal monologue if he was capable of being honest with himself. Yeah. Yep. So true. You know what I mean? And Catherine Howard has all the like confident one-liners in the show, just throwing out, you know. That's the thing about Demeter is that she doesn't really have like these protective mechanisms as far as like the psyche goes. Mm-hmm. She's more physically manifesting her protective mechanisms, and Tugger is very much just in denial the entire time. Yeah. So there's two. It's basically before her song, Catherine is Tugger. Yeah. At the end of her song, Catherine is Demeter. Yeah, and then back to Tugger for the lines. Yeah. Exactly, right after. And then Catherine Parr. Catherine Parr, I had this in my brain. It was like such a fleeting... I feel like it might be... what's his face? The old one. Gus? Gus. I love it. You just forgot the Bustopher Jones Gus track completely. The reason that I say that is because he was such a imaginative energy, and like he set so many like little records, you know, like even though for him they were just like nothing, but like they meant everything. And she's kind of like a trailblazer in that way too. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, who do you think it is? That's where, so it's in the same world, because that's where I have Jelly. Yeah. Because kind of a caretaker for, you know, the group, and especially Gus, very thoughtful and cerebral. Yeah, you're right. So that's kind of where I put Jelly Lorem. Yeah, I feel like I just get so, it's funny that I forgot him because I love Gus so much. I really love him. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the entire musical of Cats. So I think I just wanted him to have his queen moment. You know, I think I just really was manifesting for him to have his queen moment. I love it. I didn't really put this in, but I think we could do, you know, the king. But to me, that's McCavity. It's our villain. Yeah, for sure. Or maybe... Amazing. So, else? So Grizabella would have, in this scenario, she would have a kid. Yeah, I mean... She would. I think there's some versions that she has a kid. Yeah. I think some versions she has multiple kids, probably. It absolutely would not surprise me. Yeah. Would not surprise me at all. I just started watching Breaking Bad, and there's parts of like the seedy underbelly of Grizabella that reminds me. Did you ever watch Breaking Bad? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You remember I think it's the first season, the two like crackheads that like take Aaron Paul, take Jesse, they steal him. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That wife who's like, I'm not a skank. That you feel kind that? Of like that's your Grizabella. Yeah. I think it's funny. Your crackhead who's stealing people. when she gives into the temptation, and then is obviously that's not how I played Grizabella, but I saw that and I was like, why does that sound familiar to me?
My controversial-ish take on Grizabella was that when she left the tribe, it was the bald Britney Spears phase. So it's like you got your pop star who's on top of the world that has the meltdown, which I like because now she's having her comeback. So it's like she's getting her moment to where it's like she's now, because she's getting her memory section of her arc. I
would love that. I remember seeing all of the pop artists that covered Memory. Because of course I researched that. Nothing that informed the character, but of course I researched that. But Celine Dion will always take the cake for me.
I don't think I've heard that version. I might need to do some.
Oh my gosh, she literally dresses up as a cat.
Oh gosh.
You're missing out, my friend.
I'm gonna YouTube it the minute we stop recording.
Please do.
Let's do some quick rapid fire to get to the $1 million question. So, if you could perform as any character in the show that's not Grizabella, just one day, and I always say as someone, because I can't sing or dance, forget if it's male, female, vocal range, whatever it is, dancing the numbers. Just if you just could immediately had the ability and could do one character one night, who would you want to go on as?
Victoria.
Victoria? Want to do the dance numbers?
I don't want to have to sing, and I want to be able to have that flexibility in my hips.
Yeah. I love whenever I ask this question, it's either you get something that's like it's totally in my range and kind of my personality and I just want to go do it, or it's totally opposite and I want like this is the only way people answer it, and so I love it because I think it's fun. I think the other one I constantly think about is I think Tugger would be fun because it's not my personality. It's to just have that such arrogance to go out there and just do whatever you feel.
It would be great character development. You would have such a good time.
Yeah. Who are your favorite and least favorite cats? So ignore cast members. We'll go just purely based on the cat personality.
Well, obviously I repressed the memory of Bustifer, so I think that he's probably one of my least favorites. Favorite cats. I always loved listening and watching McCavity Offset. Like Bon Ballerina and Demeter, I really like their, because it's also like the only like female moment. Not that everything needs to be freaking female empowerment. That was just one thing I noticed for that time when the show was written and produced out the very first time. It was very ahead of its time.
Yeah, this is probably a little, in current society, but someone told me early on in doing this that Tugger was for the moms and McCavity was for the dads, and I always thought that was such an interesting perspective of like, that is your extremely sexy like dance numbers and songs that come out for in the musical.
100%, and we're all in freaking leotards. Come on.
Yeah. What is your favorite song from the show? Is it McCavity?
Yeah, I do. I think it is. Other than Memory, of course.
Yeah.
I actually prefer Act 1 Memory to
Little Memory.
Finale Memory. Yeah, I prefer Little Memory.
Okay. My last question before we get to the final one is, if one of the cats was part of the royal family, which one do you think would be best fit in the royal family?
Would best fit in the royal family? Honestly, probably old Deuteronomy. I think that he'd just walk around and just like not bother anyone.
I could see him. Yeah. I went the other end of the spectrum. I went Victoria. I see Victoria as like one of the Prince William's kids, just like perfectly dressed in every scenario. Yeah. Have no idea what's going on, but still a little, childish.
I feel like they don't want to like take care of anything, so I feel like old Deuteronomy is like self-sufficient enough to where like he wouldn't be against hunting for himself, like going in the back garden. You know what I mean?
Okay. I love it. Final question, and you've teased this to me before we started recording, but I don't think Grizabella is the right Jellicle choice, and so I know that you don't either, so I'd love to hear, who do you want to defend?
To go to the Heaviside Layer, it's Gus.
It's Gus.
It's Gus.
Give me the reason for you.
He's lived his life. He has passed on his knowledge, his stories. He's left his legacy. And he is still just like, he still has that childlike wonder that I want him to go out of the world with. You know, I want him to be able to like have his like final, he was ready. You know, he was ready. He didn't have anything else he needed to do, and everybody loved him.
Love it. I also kind of love it because it's like you wanted him to be the choice so much that you loosely forgot him. It's like he's already done.
The irony is not lost on me. It's not lost on me. I could see the face. I could see Tim's little face and his wig, but I just, for the life of me, could not think of that cat's name.
And it's funny you say that because I have the reverse issue because I've only seen the show twice and the movie once and the 1998 movie once. I know every character name, backstory, like potential rumor mill of most of them. I don't think I could pick half of them out of a line.
I'm so glad your retention. In general, my mental retention of names in particular, I fail at almost daily.
So I agree. I think that's a very hard thing, but these are so uncommon that that for me they're memorable. Like I didn't forget most of these names when I saw it the first time because I'm like, what? And that's why my answer for my least favorite cat's always been Peter, because I'm like, who the hell named Peter? Like that's
Which one is Peter?
Memorable. Peter is Buster Jones and Gus's dance track at the beginning in the opening number.
Gosh, yes.
That they named, but never, I mean, it's in the naming of cats, so that's where it came from. But like, it's just to get it's to get another dance body during that number. That's not one of the two.
I have a question for you. Do you think that the cat that Grizabella plays, because she was cut out of the revival, and they were going to keep her cut, but then they were like, oh, Keri can actually dance, put her back in. Who do you think that cat is?
So it's called Baby Grizz, is what it's listed as in like the Wikipedia stuff.
Right.
Part of me, if I'm taking a creative liberty, is I think it's foreshadowing, and it's the reborn Grizabella coming in. So I think that would be. Yeah. That's my cat. It's one of my, I've written a lot of like ideas for cats too, and one of them is the ghost of Catsmas Past, and following Baby Grizz through what she did by leaving. Yeah,
see, that's what I was like. Oh, this is like how Grizabella remembers herself is Baby Grizz in the very beginning of the show.
But what I love about this,
when you're walking alone,
Yeah, what I love about it though is that my like rational brain is just like, they just need another dancer. They got another dancer, like to have another person plotted there. And then they're just like, okay, who do we have? Then it's like, oh, Grizabella is not going to be in this part. So we can pull that actress in. But it's like, then all the fans is like, but what's that mean for the theory?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
So that's where I feel with Peter. I've been trying to write, I wrote my version of Peter as Peter's actually Saint Peter. And he is making sure that when whoever goes to the Heaviside Layer, he's just a spy down there waiting to understand if the person that gets picked is ready.
I love your theories. I think that they are rich. I love them.
There's zero merit to any of them besides...
Which is what makes them so good and honestly probably so real.
I think what's happened now is I've recorded 80, 90 episodes now, most, 70 plus with cast members or fans. So I've heard so many variations of like, this is what I was told, or here's what I thought about, here's this. And me being the collective, being able to take that in and then take some of the writing brain that I used to, heavily work on and say, all right, now based on this, and this could mean this. And it's ruined some of my theories. It's made me think of some new ones. But it's why I still do this podcast, is because I thoroughly enjoy hearing everyone's unique take on it.
I love that so much. I love that. Peter is now Saint Peter to me. That's all I'm ever going to think of him as.
The other one I really want to solve more on is and I don't even know if they're still around. There's two others that one is definitely not around. Is there was a Street Tugger where they made Tugger a rapping cat in the London revival.
I remember seeing that. Oh my gosh.
I have so many questions about that. And then the other one is there's a cat named Gilbert in I think the Japanese productions, and
Gilbert
it's
Sullivan?
similar to, yeah, it's similar to Peter, where it's like really just to dance. And then they did, I think it's Peaks and Pockles, or one of them, they did a samurai fight, and that was Gilbert's scene. So I have a lot of Gilbert questions too that are like, these are things that aren't answered, but the Wikipedia page has every cat name, version, and all this stuff. So if you really dig deep, there's a lot of strange things going on internationally and even here.
I feel like Cats is just like the most global, like globally influenced music. You could do anything with it. You can make him a samurai cat if it suits the culture. Why not?
Yeah, and I think the reason for it is because the plot line's so loose and the singing so beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't really need to understand, like, you could go in the dancing, like, you could go watch the show, and in Vienna it's in German, and it's like, I'm pretty sure I could go watch the show and still enjoy it, because you'll get, I mean, most people don't know the plot, even if it's in English and you're following it, and that's your first language. So I think that's why it's so successful and stayed around for so long, is that anybody can go, and if nothing else, you're going to be immersed in this incredible set, see great dancing, great singing, and 90% of the crowd's not going to follow the backstory anyways.
Exactly. This is theater.
Exactly. And they're cats. So it's, it's
and
unique.
They're cats.
Well, this has been super fun. How can people stay in touch with you on social media or other things you're working on? And I'll obviously go see you in 6 on Broadway if you're in New York.
Yeah, come see. I'm in until December. So I am on social media. I mean, I am present on social media. I'm not very active, but I do make sure to update it with everything that I'm working on. I'm working on, if you guys don't know, I had released a single earlier last year, and now I'm working on a full 3-track EP, so that will be released soon. I'm also doing a solo show in New York City on the 8th of November, if anybody's around. It'll be a blast and a half, but yeah, those are the things keeping me busy at the moment.
Amazing. We'll link everything for 6 and the solo show, and whenever the album comes out, we'll be excited to hear it.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited.
Well, this has been so fun, so thank you again for being an amazing guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to join the echelon of cats on this. I've been hearing about this podcast forever, so I'm very, very happy to be on it. Thank you for having me.
That makes me so happy that people, I know, my biggest fear when I started this was that I was going to anger a bunch of the cast members, and I love that it's been the exact opposite, is that everyone's appreciated and had fun with it. We thrive with this, so thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The Wrong Cat Died, or check out our website, thewrongcatdied.com.